the little brother from A Christmas Story. Getting ready to head out. I'm all suited up. I have 47 layers on. Probably I'll actually get hot in a minute and then I'll have to start taking things off. But so
blinded by the ones I lost, connecting lines of which we crossed, dropped off the sea.
It's a nice, balmy 22 degrees, and we need to go into town for supplies, so we are loaded up, headed out. The road is probably going to be frozen right now, and then muddy when we come back. We
Very
have
muddy.
Homie is figureheading here. He's got his little sweater on. And I have to have a towel on my lap because he's so hairy. Anybody who's ever had a pug knows what I'm talking about. Homie, what do you say, bud? You want to say hi? Homie, say hi, buddy. What are you doing? There's Scout. All right, we're ready to go. Hyper dog, check. Yep. Sausage dog, check. I got the list. All right, let's do it. I don't know if you can see that, but we have another X in the sky. X marks the spot. This is where we need to be. I hope you guys can see that. It's a huge X in the sky.
Alright, intrusive.
What are you doing? Are you sick of being in the car? Okay, ow! Dude! What? Okay, I think someone's getting bored of being in the car. What's up with you? Okay, you're really intrusive. Ew.
Wishing to have one more fight left in me. The life I see, what's left in me. Burning bridges to the ground. Take away what's left of me.
Okay, so we picked up our mail yesterday, and we only pick up our mail, 2, maybe 3 times a month. So we're a little bit slow to receive things, but we got this beautiful card. It's all glittery, and it's from Marie. Oh, sorry, I'm not good at holding the camera. Marie on the Jersey Shore. I'm pretty sure her name on YouTube is Marie Dilly. Maybe I could be wrong. It says Marie Sylvester, but whatever your last name is, Marie, thank you very much for thinking of us. Merry Christmas. Okay, so we also received this beautiful angel statue. Now it says from Vicky. I do have an aunt named Vicky, but I don't think she sent this. I'm pretty sure this is from our subscriber, Victoria Ritchie. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me in the comments. But Vicky, thank you so much. This is beautiful. I gotta find the perfect place to keep it. I want to keep it inside because it's so delicate, but it's so pretty. My friend, wherever you go, whatever you do, may this guardian angel watch over you. Oh, I love it. I love angels, so we're gonna add it to the angel collection. Thank you so much, Vicky. Merry Christmas.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm out here with Scout this morning. It's about 8 o'clock. And we're out here this early because everything is frozen. The ground is frozen, which is a good thing because the mud in the next couple of days is going to be out of control here. We had 2 rainstorms where it snowed afterward. And then because of the freezing and the limited amount of time each day that it thawed out, nothing has dried out at all. And it's starting to really show. Luckily, the temperature is going to be warm. So today it's going to be 50. Tomorrow it's going to be 54. And on Friday, I think either Thursday or Friday, it's going to be 55. So we have a number of days in a row where the temperature is going to be warmer. It's going to have about 8 hours of time where it's thawed out and clear skies. So hopefully this will start to dry out, at least for my roads. So yesterday we went to town to resupply. We left in the morning when it was 22 degrees and the road was nice and frozen. But when we came back, the road, everything had thawed out. And let me show you just how bad it is when you drive on the dirt out here when it's in the wrong kind of conditions, okay? Look at what the Navigator did to my road. Look at this. Look at how it pushed out just water. It literally pushed water out of the soil. Look at this. This is from driving through. All I did is drive in. So that's just coming in one direction one time. Imagine if I was to drive back and forth over this, or if we had a bunch of people here that were coming and going. This would be absolutely destroyed. So when it starts to thaw out, I'm going to come back out here with a shovel and I'm going to fill this in, and then I'm going to try and drive the Navigator over it. I'm not sure if I should let it dry out for a day or two and then go through and do that, but I'm definitely going to do something. I can't leave it like this. I mean, look at the, you know, these, if I leave these ruts here, they're going to fill up with water, and water's going to flow down them like a river, and they're going to become bigger and bigger and bigger, and I cannot allow that to happen. So yeah, it is extremely wet here. So right now it's all frozen, so I can walk on it and I'm not getting any mud on me, and I can let Scout run around and she's not getting any mud. And this little cut through right here that goes to the road, I use that when I pull in with the RV, so I don't have to make a sharp turn into my driveway. So I purposely came in that way so I didn't destroy the turn in to my driveway. This is the worst I've ever seen it. And once this thaws out, like even me and Scout just stepping on it, your feet will sink in. We will not be walking on this for a couple of days. So what I'm going to do is every morning I'm going to let her come out here, and I'm just going to bundle up so that she can spend about an hour running around, and we'll walk the whole property. We'll go over by Aja's place. We'll let her get this all out of her system and let her run around and get all tired before it thaws out. So basically, with the sun coming up and the temperatures, we've got about an hour until this thaws out. So got a comment from somebody. I'm trying to think of exactly how it was worded, but it was just absolutely absurd. Somebody basically saying that I should be out here walking my dog around on a leash, and it basically, their next words were, it's the owner's fault, negligence with a lot of exclamation points, and dogs are killed by rattlesnakes. Well, I'll tell that person, just so that I believe in educating people, Western rattlesnakes typically do not go outside and move around on the snow when we're in the teens. When the temperature's in the teens and had been in the single digits overnight, snakes don't go out like that. I'll just help to educate you. They're cold-blooded creatures. At that temperature, their blood would freeze solid. It paralyzes the snakes. At this temperature, there are no reptiles out here at all. We have a prolific amount of lizards here. There are none out here right now. Reptiles do not come out when the temperatures are in the frickin', we're talking about hard freeze temperatures. Technically, on paper, they say at this altitude that you can have rattlesnakes. I have never seen one. I lived in Flagstaff for 5 years. I have family that's lived there for over 30 years, and I know many people who have lived in this area their entire lives. I don't know one person that's ever seen a rattlesnake, ever. I've seen 3 snakes in the year and a half I've been here. They're all garter snakes. There's nothing out here besides scorpions and black widows that are poisonous to Scout, and most of them are underneath rocks. So, and she's not interested in that. So I'm being very responsible with my dog. So yeah, I hope that helps with the people that are worried about us having rattlesnakes out here. So I've been looking into different alternative ways of making this moisture stay on this land. You know what happens when you walk around or when you drive on the dirt out here, it breaks up the surface. And on the surface, there's always like a crust. And that crust prevents the water from soaking in. It just literally will sit on top of it. And it's been a a thing that we've known since we bought the property out here, that, you know, the more everybody walks around and drives around and breaks up that crust, then we have this really fine dust, and it's almost like talcum powder. And that's because our soil has very high clay content. What happens once it rains, that talcum powder will make a crust again, and then we have no dust, which is great. But then next time it rains, you know, maybe 4 or 5% of all that moisture soaks in. Now, I noticed something phenomenal this summer. After we got all that rainfall and all the grasses started to come back, and then the purslane started to fill in all the other areas, and so there was a lot less exposed ground. I noticed that every time it rained, that moisture would soak in and it would stay for weeks. So it made me realize that the answer to how dry it is here, and the answer to all of this water that sits on the surface, and when we get these mud events, it's the fact that the moisture is just not staying in the soil. I started looking into alternative ways to getting that moisture to stay in the soil. I'll tell you the permaculture technique that I'm going to use, and I'm going to go much more in detail about it, is to use something called swales. And what it is like a small contoured ditch that allows the rain runoff, even on an area that doesn't have much of a slope. It allows that moisture to be retained and then soak into the berm that you have made. And the berm is made extremely soft and broken up so that water can soak into it. And the first thing you plant there are trees, and you plant deep-rooted trees. And swales are basically a system of capturing and utilizing rainwater and turning it into groundwater, and using trees to do it. And then the great thing about underneath trees is you can plant all kinds of stuff. You can plant ground covers and all kinds of different things. It's a way of managing the water. It's a way of, like I said, of taking the moisture that does come onto your land and getting, you know, close to 100% of it to stay and be used throughout the year. The way I have seen the moisture patterns change here, you know, I didn't notice all these things until I have stayed here for a full year. I didn't notice these things until I experienced all 4 seasons here in a row. I've noticed that there's more than enough moisture here. Coming all the way down through, starting way up at the end of my property, up past the RV, this whole open field we have is like a little miniature valley. Water from all the rest of the land around runs down to it. So all the way along there, if we could put a series of contoured berms to catch all that water and hold it, and then have a line of trees on each one all the way down. And what you do is you just make all of the trees and everything you plant edible perennials, so that it all grows back every year without any effort. At some point I realized that there seems like there could be more to be done than just collecting rainwater inside of vessels and containers to only use and apply it to the land later. You know, with somewhere between, I'm guessing that, you know, 22 inches of annual rainfall is probably in an ideal year, and we've been in a 22-year drought. So, and this last year in 2021, I would say we probably got very close to the 22 inches of rainfall here from what I observed from storm by storm. I had not been keeping track of it myself, but I will be. I will be getting a small weather station, and I'm going to start keeping track of the rainfall and snowfall, and I'm going to start closely tracking all of the precipitation that falls on the land here. But when I discovered that there are ways of very easily making all of the moisture stay on the land, and there's more than enough to honestly create an entirely different ecosystem here. I mean, if we used, it might sound crazy, but if we use these permaculture techniques on all of the land, the entire 40 acres, I would say maybe 10 years in, this would be an entire ecosystem. And downslope from our property, almost certain would have a natural spring form because of the amount of water that we're going to hold into the ground. And being that our water table is 3,500 feet down, chances are that moisture is either going to find pockets here to stay in, or it'll just stay in the actual soil longer. But I think we can make an entire changed mini ecosystem and microclimate here. In fact, probably going to end up with a series of microclimates. I'm going to try to direct all of the runoff from all of the roads that go through my property onto these earthworks. In fact, I may even be able to get them to go onto a pond. And I'm going to have a lot of information detailing this coming up, but I've always had a plan to build a permanent gun range. I spent a lot of time thinking about it and coming up with ways I could make that gun range be really ecological. I have a lot of experience with gun ranges. A lot of people may not know, but I worked at a gun range for almost 8 years. I got to be part of running the range. I was part of, for 4 years, I was part of the maintenance crew that worked on it once a week. We also, that range, we had to pay a company one time to come in and mine all of the lead out of our berms. But the one thing I learned about a gun range is that all of the lead goes into the berms. You typically don't have any on the ground that you're walking around on and that you're parking on. People, if they drop bullets, you know, even back long ago, they're expensive. People pick them up, especially when you have, you know, like we had grass everywhere. So all that stuff got picked up before our mowers went over it. And we just didn't have any type of lead content over what normally would be found in normal soil on the actual ground of the range. It was always just in the berms. So what I realized is that, you know, the gun range I want to build is going to be 90 feet by 30 feet, 90 feet long by 30 feet wide. And it's going to have a gravel base, right? A gravel base of probably 6 to 8 inches to walk around on. What if I took that space, sloped it at 1 degree, okay, or even 2 degrees, which is basically the natural slope that's already there. What if I put a pond liner under it and run all the runoff from that giant area over into a small pond on the downhill slope side of the range? So now I have a pond that's up above 2 acres of my food forest that I could utilize later if we did have a bad drought. Also, I'm going to have to build a gigantic berm behind it. Well, I want the berm to be 12 feet tall. If you do the math, a 12-foot tall berm is going to be, you know, 25 to 30 feet wide at the base. That's a lot of earth. Typically, no matter how powerful the bullets are that are being fired into it, even giant stuff like 50 calibers, which was the largest caliber we allowed on our range, we did not get penetration in the soil past 24 inches. There was still, you know, another 20-something feet of berm behind where the bullets never went into. So what if on the other side of the berm, the other side from the gun range, I built a root cellar? And the root cellar would only have to go into the berm about halfway. It would be totally safe. It would be utilizing a giant earthwork that I've got there, and it would be making, so the gun range, including the berm, everything there would have at least 2 jobs. I could also put a liner on backside of the berm, or put some type of a ground cover that allows runoff, and I could put a ditch on the backside of the berm, and I could collect the water runoff from the side that has no lead. So then there's another source. There's a third job for the berm that I could do. It's going to take me some time to put all these things together. I mean, you know, I need a tractor to do a lot of this. I may be doing some trade work coming up, or some type of a barter for tractor work. There's quite a few of neighbors that I have that live around here that have tractors. As far as, you know, a lot of the other earth berms that I'm going to do, I mean, a lot of them I'm going to start with just doing them by hand. Sometimes you just have to work with what you got. And I'm sure, you know, Aja has some fantastic plans for the areas that she wants to do with the garden. You know, I actually got the idea of a food forest from her. I never actually even heard of it before. And then when I started researching it, it led me into the permaculture and the earthworks and the discovery of how you can make any amount of water work for you. I mean, they are using these permaculture techniques and these earthwork techniques in areas of the desert that have 1 annual rain event a year. And they're able to make permanent changes, entire ecosystem changes. This whole area, every time we have precipitation, water collects here and it stays. And it soaks into this ground where all this green is. Even when it's dead, it soaks into this ground, and this ground will stay muddy for weeks and weeks and weeks after everything else is bone dry. And that's an example on flat ground of how the water collection that I'm thinking about making can actually work. you have the inside of you have your ditch where the water collects, and on this side you have a berm. Now on this side, if all of that was loosened up about 2 foot down and had trees planted on it, I've already seen enough water happen here just from every precipitation storm. These trees would be well watered and would be able to grow really well all year. Now what if we directed some of the other runoff around here into this spot? Okay, so it's almost 11 o'clock, so it's 3 hours later. And you can see that sheen is the moisture, and it just sits on the surface until it evaporates. And it's been days now since this melted off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait a few days, let this dry out a little bit, and then I'm going to dig down a ways and find out just how far down you go. And I'm going to dig right here in the middle where it's got full sun almost all day. I don't want to do it anywhere near or under a tree because I know that's going to hold more moisture. I want to get a feel for how much moisture is in the soil and how far down it goes. I'm wondering if I'm going to encounter an area where it's dry even after all of the rain that we had over the summer and everything. Last year when our dog Luna died, I buried her up there in our cemetery, and I dug a hole 4.5 feet deep, and it was bone dry. I mean bone dry all the way. I would be very curious to see what it's like here now. So I'm going to dig a test hole right out here in the middle. I'll probably dig it, start with like 3 foot deep and see what we got. See what moisture we have and how far down it's gone from the really good season we had of precipitation. So we can see right out here, all of that soil that's in the open ground has that crust on it and nothing soaks in. And you can see even when we get into the area where there's green, where there's more sparse vegetation, you have more standing water. We get over here to where we have some organic material laying on the ground and more grass, and you see how the dirt was actually able to soak it up, right? And then if you look over here underneath the tree where there's lots of organic material, look at this when I dig this up. I mean, look at that. That's some decent looking soil. I mean, it's still pretty dry, but you know, there's a grass root structure. It's holding some moisture, which is proof that the more alive you make the soil and the more there's growing in that soil, the more it's able to hold the moisture. And that's what I want to do to this property. I'm definitely going to leave some areas of natural vegetation. And you'll notice the generator's running. I'm doing laundry all day. But you can see out there on my road, I've got standing water. All of that could be directed. You know, my end goal is to turn this into a working and profitable homestead. And I think I can do it pretty easily. So turning this place into a working homestead, almost like a small working farm, I'll be creating total 100% self-sustainability and reliability. When we're done, this place will be a large off-grid food producing farm. And I might even produce some livestock, I don't know. But at the very least, I will have chickens for eggs. At the same time, I'll be creating something that we can leave to our family. It's gonna help our community. I mean, this is probably gonna create possibly some seasonal jobs. Imagine if you went to go work at a place seasonally where you're able to make a living, stay in a wonderful, beautiful place, work doing, you know, organic permaculture gardening, helping, you know, build the environment and, you know, provide food for the local food bank. Something that a lot of people don't know about this place out here. I think in the United States, it's like one of the top 3 places to view the stars at night because of how dark it is. Where I'm at, every single night that it's clear and the moon is not up, you can see the Milky Way. And I mean, see it bright. At night, when it gets dark, I get to see the stars. I mean, every time I come out here in the middle of the night and to let Scout out to go to the bathroom, I see a shooting star. Every single night, I see at least 5 shooting stars. Every single night, I see satellites traversing the sky in the evening, in the early part of the evening, and especially before sunrise. They're very bright, especially here. You can see the Milky Way kind of come up and then it changes position throughout the night. It's amazing. It is amazing.
Burning bridges to the